Dun, dun, dun.
That's exactly what was in my head.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Maybe we've done that
That's
before.
funny. I don't think we have we?
I don't know, but it's felt apropos.
Yeah, well, on YouTube, it's not going to make sense because we delete the intro for YouTube because of copyright reasons with the music, even though we've paid to license the music. YouTube doesn't like it. I'm sure there's a way around it, but I've never figured it out.
Oh,
Anyway, mental load. Do we need to
yeah.
start off with a definition?
I think so.
Do you want to have a go, or should we just go straight to Chat GPT?
Just go straight. Let's see if I
Okay.
agree or not.
Okay. Yeah, it's easier to be the critic, right?
Yes.
Mental load is the invisible weight of thinking, planning, and remembering everything that needs to happen. The management of life, not just the doing of it. It's that constant background hum of tasks, worries, and responsibilities that never really switches off.
Mm.
And it often falls unevenly, leaving one person quietly carrying the mental responsibility for everyone else's lives as well as their own. That sounds
Interesting.
right? No?
Yeah, but an interesting addendum. It took relationship dynamics, put that into it. Whereas I feel like you can carry a mental load all by yourself.
100%. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I agree. I'm also imagining as a parent, I feel like this is just parent life. Do you not feel like you have to carry a huge mental load for your kids when you're thinking about what they need for this or whatever at school?
Yes, just the way the household runs, like I feel
Hmm.
like I'm the one who's thinking about that all the time and worrying about that all the time. And I also think that it's part of my I don't know if it's part of my personality, but it's part of my way to do that. And I'm probably doing that more than I need to be doing that. So in some ways it's like, is it serving a function for me to be doing that as well as also being a practical need? And I think it's
Hmm.
both.
So how much, I don't know how you quantify this, but how much extra mental load do you think you're carrying beyond what is necessary for the household to run?
A lot.
Okay. Well quantified.
You know how I can tell because
Hmm.
it's the way that like you know how sometimes I'm like, okay, Elise has the color run on Wednesday and she's got the residency performance on Thursday and Julie's got this and they all have different things and it's kind of like a pragmatic sort of documentation internally of what's going where. And to me that can feel like sometimes that's energizing, sometimes that makes me feel organized. Sometimes that crosses over into feeling heavy and like I need somebody else to pick this up for me, but it also feels clear. Everything serves a purpose and there's like an order to it. But then sometimes it crosses over into what becomes anxiety for me, which I understand that also that can exist around practical things, but it feels different when it's like I just have a lot on my plate, can you take some of it? Versus the kind of rumination and the repetitive cycles of thinking about this that then leads to thinking about this like where one thing leads to another and it's more than just about what I need to be thinking about and more about all the what ifs. And those what ifs you could follow those trails and be like, well, I'm just managing this and what if this happens? I need to be aware of that, but it can turn into fodder for your own anxiety. And that feels to me a certain way that it does feel like a mental load, but it also feels like one I create. And I don't say that in an accusatory way, like, but it is one that I think I don't need. Like it's not serving a purpose except for my own, like a chew toy for my own brain to give energy to something. You and I started talking about this because in the context of your life right now,
Hmm.
you're experiencing a new mental load because you don't run anxious. Do you feel like it's a practical thing or does it bleed over into what I'm describing here?
Well, I'm going to first of all throw to you, in your mind, what's the difference between feeling anxious and feeling stressed in your own experience? Is there much of a difference between those
Yeah.
two? How do you experience them differently?
Stress is, I don't know how to say this except I was going to say the word real, but it feels like it has stages to it and a function. Whereas anxiety is this like never ending and pervasive. Like I could put it
Hmm.
anywhere. Stress feels more like about something.
That's a really nice way. But in your body, how do you feel it? That's a really good point, and I want to think about that a bit more too. But in your body, like, how do you feel the difference between stress versus anxiety?
Anxiety has fear and stress doesn't.
Okay. Oh, yeah. See, you are putting things into words that are just making so much sense to me. So I would say how I'm experiencing it is like a stress, not an anxiety. There's not a lot of what ifs. There's just a sense that obligations in my life have changed. So just to the listener, my dad has had this horrible, like weird autoimmune disease that they still don't really understand, but it's destroyed a lot of the muscle in his body. So he has gone from being a very independent, mobile man to not being able to get himself dressed. And this has happened in a very short space of time. So it's stepping into that space that some people have in life where they're now taking care of parents who are older or unwell. For me, what it feels like when I am carrying this extra mental load, and it's more about all the things that I have to do, the way I would describe it's like a pressure in my body, and I feel like I want to explode and I can't.
Mm.
So it's like a tension, and I've been experiencing it. It's like headaches and a lot of tightness in my neck and my shoulders. So last Friday, my dad went back into hospital last week, and then on the Friday, I was like, okay, I am gonna. After I'd been to see him in hospital, I booked myself last minute. I booked myself in for a massage, like just neck, shoulders, and head, that area. And as soon as she touched me, she went, "Oh, very bad, very bad." She was a Thai lady. I won't do the accent. She's going, "Very bad, very bad." I said, "Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, no, it is really tight. I've been going through a lot." She was like, "Oh, okay."
Just going to
And
add
she's
to your
carrying
stress.
on, but then she kept mumbling under her breath, "Oh, so bad, so bad." And at one point, she touched a part of my neck, shoulder here, and she goes, "Wow, oh, that's bad." I couldn't, I
Don't
couldn't
you think
even.
that's compounding the stress?
I couldn't be annoyed. I just found it really funny because her reaction was so big. I mean, this is a masseuse who touches
Yeah.
people's bodies in this way all the time. And it was like she was in absolute shock at the state of my muscles in my neck and my shoulder that Friday. Fortunately, I'm not like that all the time, but I'd had like a couple of days where it just got on top of me. So yeah, that's how I experience. I don't experience it as anxiety. I'm not experiencing it as like that fear feeling. But there is a sense of trepidation because is this him going to continually go downhill, or
Yeah.
is he going to be able to recuperate some of his strength and actually improve? It's unlikely he'll get back to where he was, but we don't really know which direction this thing's moving in at the moment.
Well, to me, it's like if I'm putting myself in that position and I'm thinking about the concept of mental load, there's a certain amount of reasonability for that. There are certain things that you have to think about and what if even, to just to be able to be prepared. And that's what anxiety is, to some degree, or is it? Like is it taking that too far? I guess what I'm asking you is when you think about this scenario you're in and mental load, like does it all feel proportional to what's going on for you in your life? Or is there a part of that that feels like, are there places where you're called to release it? Or is that why you go get a massage? Like, do you feel like you're managing the mental load the way that one does, or that like we would need to?
Well, I've been doing that thing and I've been very aware of it, where I've really been judging myself for not handling it better in my mind. And at the same time, recognize that anybody else I would look at in this position who told me this was how they were feeling, I wouldn't judge them for a
Right.
second. So I'm in the dissonance of that. I can see that. I'm a bit frustrated with myself because what it basically involves is doing more things like shopping for him. When he's in hospital, though, he does like foods brought in that are high in protein. So sometimes I'm doing some cooking. He wants vegetables juiced every day. There's all these different things.
Every
And
day?
when he's in hospital every day, yeah.
Wow.
And when he's at home, whenever I go and see him, which is most days,
That's a task.
it is a task
Yeah.
because it's cleaning the juicer,
I
right?
that's why
It's
I don't do it for
getting all the
myself.
vegetables in, right?
Forget it. That's a whole undertaking.
I know. Now, here's the thing. It sounds like he's being very demanding. If I were to say no, or I'm not able to do it, or something like that, he he would be fine about it. But I feel like because I can do it, I hear it as I have to do it. Because I am capable of doing those things, I'm still experiencing it like I have to,
Mm,
even though he would reassure me that I don't. And I want him to have the things that he wants because he's going through this horrible thing. And it's kind of like the least I can do. And also, I do know from just my history, like my whole life with this man, I do know that if it was the other way around, he would do all of those things for me.
mm.
So there's that piece in there as
Well, there's
well.
a guilt kind of associated
Oh
with
my
it.
God, the guilt. And then I feel guilty about not wanting to go and do those things.
Well, could that be okay? I don't know. I'm thinking about the personal. And I mean, you and I, once again, on this topic, are going to be cut from the same cloth around the idea of selfishness. And I don't mean that in any kind of accusatory way. We've talked about like, I don't feel bad. Well, it doesn't stop me from doing things for myself. Like this idea of like,
Hmm.
I want to take care of myself. I need to take care of myself. My mental health is very fragile. And there's certain ways in which I need to be present with myself, which means that taking care of other people are going to interrupt that to a degree.
Yes, yes.
And the part of us that recognizes or that has guilt about, sorry, it's not guilt, that has a protective instincts around that then we feel guilty about, like maybe that can be like, yeah, there's a part of me that doesn't want to. There's a part of me that wants to just do things I need to do and not be doing that. And if that's okay, does that change anything to allow yourself to feel that way?
Hmm. Yeah, and I don't, yeah, you're right. We are cut from the same cloth as in I have booked a retreat for a weekend at the end of November. I've booked a retreat for a weekend in January as well because I know that I need those things. And I do have days because one of the things I knew I needed was actually when he's out of hospital, I need a routine. So these are the days I'll come, and on these days I won't come. And that needs to be the same each week so that I have that like mentally, do you know, so I can plan my week
Yeah.
rather than every week going, where am I going to fit dad in? It's like, it's this, it's here, it's here, it's here.
Yeah.
So that was something that helped. The bit that I am frustrated by and that I think maybe other people might be able to relate to is sometimes I look at the whole mental load thing and I'm annoyed because I'm thinking, why can't I just mentally put this down? I know, so as I mentioned to you earlier, after we record, he's coming out of hospital as we speak again. I need to go and do a big shop for him, take that over to him, probably do some cooking so that he's got food for the next few days. Now, I want to just be here and record the podcast with you, but in my mind, there is a part of my mind that is, I have to do this thing afterwards. And there is a sense of dread around that because we've talked about it before. I hate supermarket shopping unless it is just walking up the road to one. I don't like doing a big shop. I never do. I don't do it for myself. I don't know what it is about it, but I find myself uh, feeling stressed at the thought of doing it.
Yeah.
And that's like why, if I just was able to let that go, then all it would mean is we'd finish this and I would just go and do what I needed to do. And that's because it is okay when I'm doing it, when I'm not
Yeah.
mentally
That's the worst.
stressing out about it,
I know. I would do that all the time. Well,
it's,
that's the mental part. It's
I
like
know.
the
That's
load
what
is
this is
okay.
about.
It's the mental part of
Yes.
the load that
Yes,
isn't.
the reality of it, because we've got it into a place now where it's like, okay, in these days and this times is when I'm available for him, and it is doable. But the mental side of it and that mentally being in my calendar, not the day-to-day reality is
Yeah.
okay.
Well, what is that? Like, because we all do that. And I think it's whether we've got a scenario like this that's acute this way or not. Like this idea of even the smallest things. I know that I've felt that way about having, like, also, I like grocery shopping, but sometimes I think about having to go grocery shopping and all of the unpacking the groceries and getting them and driving there. And I don't know, like just thinking about it is so much more work than doing it. Why
Hmm.
do we do that? In what ways might that be helping us? Because else, why would we do it?
Well, I watched a YouTube video the other day and I wish I could remember the name of where the concept originally came from, but it was some Gestalt therapist or something that it was brought notice because they found out that waiters would remember the orders of the people who hadn't paid and they would forget the orders of people who had paid, right, in terms of what they could remember in their head about that
Yeah.
order. And so it's about open loops
Yeah.
take more mental energy than closed loops.
Yeah.
So this is why procrastination can be exhausting because you have all these open loops, all these incomplete tasks. So that was the conclusion. The conclusion was, as they were looking at it in other areas, is that we will focus on incomplete tasks and we forget about completed tasks.
Yeah.
So because today everything I have to do after this is an incomplete task, my brain is holding that tab open.
Yes. I relate to that. I feel like that makes a lot of sense. And it also feels a little bit like, well, oh no, because we live in a world where we have lots of open loops, like tons of them, more and more every decade. I feel like culturally, right? And the amount of things we're responsible for just because of increased efficiencies, even, which is ironic. Just like the more you can do, the more you put on, you pile on. Um, And so if there's a part of the brain that functions that way, that leaves your open loops open and lets you not forget about them or put them down because there is a purpose to that as far as like, don't forget, we're not happy with this until we close the loop. How do we function in a society where we have literally and figuratively so many tabs open? Is that something that we can do without trying? Like is being able to put mental load down, does it have to be an intentional active pursuit, rather than something that we just do? But will we just default? I think we would just default to it.
Hmm.
Although it's interesting because some people do more than others. Um, have you been successfully able to close a loop where it's not actually closed?
Well, the conclusion of the video was it was also talking about that when you close a loop, it gives you energy. So it's not just about you stop draining energy. You know that boost. Think of it as a dopamine hit, whatever, of completing something. So of course the long and short was the video was go and do the thing, but they're just presenting it in this whole new concept. But what it did was it did give me a little boost to get on top of some of the tasks I'd been
Yeah.
procrastinating over. I made a call that I'd been procrastinating over. I booked my driver awareness course. I'd been procrastinating over that, and there was something else. And I closed like 3 loops in like 45 minutes. It's like, this is amazing. Look at me closing all my loops. So there's a difference, I guess, between procrastination and particularly the procrastination, certainly in my experience, over the small things. I was able to close 3 loops in 45 minutes,
It's
you
able
know?
to close 3 loops in 45 minutes. You have to have energy to do that too.
Well, but because I'd watched that YouTube video and this whole, when you just think about something a different way, you got a new
Yeah.
concept for it, rather than it feeling like, oh, I need to find the energy to do this, it was like, ah, this is going to give me that energy.
Mm.
And just that flip in my brain gave me the motivation to do those tasks. Because it's not really
Nice.
energy, because those things didn't take a lot of energy. They took motivation, which of
Mm.
course is a type of energy, but it's not that you can find
Right.
motivation, but there's a mind switch that needs to happen with that, because there was an anticipation of a reward, I guess, and that might
Yeah.
have been part of it too. And I got the reward, so it was reinforcing.
Well, how would that apply then to the grocery shop today that you're carrying now?
Well, this is the challenge, isn't it, right? In a situation like this is different because this is not something I'm procrastinating over. This
Yeah.
can only happen at a certain time. So I guess when we think of our open loops, what are the things that we're procrastinating over that we could close in order to give ourselves more energy? If we think about it that way, maybe we find more motivation to do it. It's worked for me once. I'm not going to say this is the concept that's going to transform the rest of my life, but it helped me on that particular day.
Yeah. And that goes back to this idea of like stress and anxiety, because when I think about it that way, like when I have stress, like I can rally to close my loops, and that feels good, and I know that that feels good. So that is what the motivating force is. But when it comes to anxiety, those loops aren't closable. Like for example, a lot of the mental load that I carry has to do with long-term projects that I cannot close. Like I can't do it now. It's going to be months, if not even longer, of working towards something, or even raising kids where it's like it's not just about getting X done for Thursday. It's also about like raising a human with mental health and how I'm going to set her off into the world when she's 18. Like those kinds of stresses, I call them stresses, become anxieties because they're not things I can do right now. And I guess maybe as I'm talking this through, I'm thinking about part of it potentially is where we're putting our attention. So if I'm always thinking about the things that are going to take a long time to do or that don't have an end necessarily, at least not soon, I'm going to sit in my anxiety. But if I can break those things down into achievable tasks, because that is how long-term projects get done anyway, or long-term goals get done, then I can move. And I do notice this because I have to be quite honest, like I have a ton of mental load about where I'm taking this work, right? Like how I want to show up and create content for binge eating recovery or somatic work. And I've got plans, but it's going to take tons of little goals to get there. And so every single day I wake up with this fear. I wake up with this anxiety inside of me. And the way I get through it, it's kind of, I said to Mike recently, I was like, maybe I'll just take off for 6 months to a year and just get it all done. And he's like, you would never survive because you need your daytime things to keep you moving because you have small tasks that you accomplish every day, like your one-to-one clients and the little things you are doing that keep your business going all the time. Those things are actually what support you the most because by the time you're done with your day, you feel better. Right. So it's like if I keep my eyes on what's actually in front of me and what I can achieve and do in a day, that actually takes me into maybe more stress, but kind of stress that you can work with and even becomes rewarding
Mhm.
versus anxiety, which is the grand landscape of something and things that don't necessarily have a close. Although to that end, I will say that my somatic therapist has offered that we visualize the end of something or the completion of something. And when we can see something and visualize the outcome that we're looking for, even if it's far in the future, that can also help the nervous system understand the closed loop experience, even through a visualization.
Well, so then for you, are you saying that when it's stress and not anxiety, that's actually quite motivating for you?
Yeah.
So when your stress would build into anxiety then
Yeah.
when it goes too far down that path. Mine would go into overwhelm, which is different. I think I just experience it differently from how I think about anxiety because it's not, there is obviously some fear in there, but it's more, actually, it's less fear, it's more hopelessness,
Well, yeah, that's where you
which,
go in the system, and
yeah,
I go to fear.
yeah,
Yeah. But I don't know that they're that different. Like, I would say anxiety is a version of overwhelm.
sure, sure. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Okay, well, here's a question. If you could drop one recurring mental task from your brain forever, what would it be?
I'm the one who liked this question. I'm like, I don't know how to answer that because it's
What if you
not,
pick the wrong thing?
I think it would be whack-a-mole because if I picked one to knock down, it would pop up somewhere else. But I think it would be um I think it would be work. I think it would be this fear of not getting around or not being able to complete everything I need to complete to be successful. But I also am well aware that, yeah, that's great because 10 years ago it would have been my body image, and it would have been my food stuff. And it's like, well, now that I've done that, that doesn't have so much hold over me at all. But this does. So, is it about the task? I don't think
Hmm.
for me it is.
Hmm. Well, this is where I think maybe the Buddhists are onto something with their non-attachment, because to me, if I were thinking just how to reduce my mental load generally, I think what I would need would to be less attached to outcome.
Yeah. Good luck.
Well, the thing is, I've
Just
tasted it,
kidding.
Steph. I
I have
tasted
two.
it.
I have two.
I tasted it for quite a long, considerable period of time. That first time I did the Hero's Journey retreat, when I came back, there was chaos going on. When I had my friend living with me, and she was vanishing at 3 a.m. with drug dealers, and like it was like it was quite chaotic.
Yeah.
Yet with all of that, there was like an underlying feeling of calm and
Yeah.
peace, and there wasn't the mental load. I remember actually the first time that I think I became aware of this concept, I don't think this language was really being used then, was in therapy, probably about 10 years ago. And I remember saying to my therapist that when I looked at my diary for the week, because I was working and studying, and then you had to have therapy supervision, and I was doing 2 placements on top of that, I'd look at my diary for the week and it would be so full, I would feel like I wanted to panic about that. But then day by day, it was fine. It
Yeah.
was fine. I'm someone who's quite
Yeah.
happy to be doing stuff from early to late. And she just made some observation about, oh, so the anticipation of doing something just doesn't match the experience. I thought,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And that for me is where the overwhelmed mental load comes in. The way I am feeling about what I have to do after this podcast is not going to match the experience
Right.
of just doing the thing.
Agree.
Why can't I get that
Right.
into
Because
my
that's
head?
logic. Um,
Yes. Why can't I use logic all the time?
well, because there's something in the body, I think. First of all, I also think we can't necessarily just fix that. I'm thinking about the non-attachment. Like, where does that go during times like this? Because I have to really summon it. Like that non-attachment and that feeling like it's almost like a faith. I think it's where people find religion. I don't find it through religion, but I can find that like when things get bad enough, especially, I can let go of more. They
Hmm.
have to just get bad enough though. Like that's the
Yes.
caveat, unfortunately. Um, and then when I find that, it's like, yeah, you do. I found in the past several months, like I've been really struggling. And they're the times where I feel the most low, I can reach this place of there's more than this and I don't need this. And it's almost like a control, right? Like the mental load is a version in some ways of attachment and control. When you can release that, you feel so much better. But then you stop, like, like then you re-engage and it comes back. And that it's like you have to be vigilant about releasing your vigilance. Like you have to work on that every damn day, like in order to stay non-attached. And so it's work. It's not just this place you reach and then you let go of. But I think that the logic part is helpful. And I use the logic part a lot to just like, oh, it's like a placeholder for me, like, don't panic here. There's this logical understanding that the thing you fear is not actually as terrifying as this moment right here is. But beyond the logic is a felt sense of safety or not. And I think that when we're in the brain, it's like that's not speaking to the part of us that has human, what I think of as just like human fear, and like the part of the body that's holding, that's bracing, that's collecting all of the stress and the worry that I don't think logic always can touch. Like it's in our cells, I think, to do this. I think it's part of the way we protect ourselves. It's part of that open loop. It's the way we're made. And so if we're not releasing that through what? Like through what helps us release that through our bodies? And is it always physical, or is it part of it like that's non-attachment practice, which is maybe more of a transcendental experience? Does it always come back, and can we expect it to?
Yeah, you're right. When you talk about those things getting bad, and that's when you're more likely to be able to access that, and this is where my mind went, and just tell me whether this is what resonates. It's if things go to a place where it really is outside of my control, then there isn't a mental load. So, like, you might think that the hardest part of this would be, is dad going to get worse or is dad going to get better? Like that uncertainty. And that is uncomfortable and it pops up sometimes, but it's not the predominant thing because that is outside of my control. So there's no mental load to carry there because I know that there is nothing that I can do except things like, yes, okay, I will dash back
Right.
and get you eggs, even though
Right.
it wasn't on the list. Or I will juice your vegetables or whatever it might be. That's the one piece I can do there. But really, I'm aware that that's quite a minimal part of it. And yet that I think is the point. And maybe sometimes things get so accumulative, there is a sense of letting go because there's a sense of an admission that we can't control. We get the relief. And then when we start to feel a bit better, we're like, oh, I could just do this and do that, and that would
Yes.
make it better here and
Yes.
that. And then we
That's
pick up the
exactly it.
control again.
Yeah. And I've tried a lot of times to not have that happen, but it just does because you start to attach to the idea that you can control something, or that it is a relentless practice of having to come back to the idea that we don't control. We don't control things. But
Are
it
you
feels
sure?
so good when you can. And it feels so, it's an escape. You know what I mean? Like when you can start to control some things, I don't know that it's possible unless you are like a full-time monk to not attach to the hope that you can control some things because it feels so much safer.
Mm.
Not in a bad way. Like it just does to be able to do something for somebody. Like it's a boost for everybody. Like it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna go that way today. And then I'm gonna risk having to unattach from this.
I know we've had this thing before where we said like you'd have to be a monk
I
to
know, I
achieve
say it a
that.
lot.
And I'm like, I refuse to accept that. I
Really?
refuse to accept you have to be a
Oh,
monk. I will,
I don't know.
and maybe that's my way of trying to take control because I'm like, no,
Yeah.
it has to be possible.
Yeah.
But when you say, that it feels good to be in control, my mind, what flicked into my mind at that moment was the control is always an illusion anyway.
I know. Except when you feel you have a little of it and then you're like, no, it's not. See, I just controlled something. That's the trick of it. Because sometimes we
Yeah,
do. Sometimes we do have little, like the micro control over things. And then we're like, yeah, there are things I can do to make this better. And then we are like, yeah, I can get away with this until it
yeah.
becomes so big.
I think what I want is either absolute full control or zero.
Yeah,
Where you just stop with this middle ground
agree.
nonsense. Like I haven't got the energy for it.
Well, it's like an emotional whiplash. It's like
Yeah,
if I'm going to control a little bit, I'm going to settle in there. So I don't want to have to release that again. And that's, isn't that what the Buddhists say? Attach and release. And like it's always about this releasing. Because if you wouldn't have to keep releasing if you didn't keep attaching. And I don't know that it is possible. to not attach. I think it's part of our human condition to do that because we navigate the world in part through doing it.
Well, I think it's a Buddhist or a Zen story that, oh, maybe it's actually, I think it's supposed to be based on a person who actually lived, but whoever, there was a guy who was a guru type person. This is the story. And
Yeah, it's a good
he,
story.
he was seen by everyone as being like the most peaceful, happy person. And someone said to him, asked him the secret to happiness and why he was always so happy and peaceful. And his response was, because I don't mind what happens. And
I do though.
that was that was how I felt for those couple of months when I had this experience. It was like I didn't mind what happened, and I'd always thought that that would mean I wouldn't care and I'd feel less engaged with things because if you don't care what happens, why would you engage? But it was the opposite. I felt more
Mm,
engaged than ever. And it was this beautiful paradox which I
yeah.
just have never been able to access for
Same.
more than a very short
Yeah,
period of time since. But
same.
I've had longer periods of that, and I'm
Me too.
sad about it. Every time I think about it, it seems like cruel. It seems like it was very cruel to get the opportunity to experience that and then have it taken away. That's what it felt like.
I
But it was probably my fault.
No, it wasn't. Stop shaming yourself. It's what I call the psychology of close access. We've talked about this before with the bathroom, but like the when you get closer to something, you can let something go. And then when you do that, you create a separation between you and that control or that outcome. And there's like this space in between. And it's so beautiful in that space because you realize you never held it anyway. But the closer you then get to it, the more within reach it is, the more it's like easy to just like grab it and then you grab it and then it's like a burr attached to your clothing and then you have to do that whole process again. And I think it's harder to be closer. It's harder. It's kind of like I think I've written about this in the way that people age and the idea of all the things available now to not age, like fillers and Botox and like all the and now it's like we don't have permission to just let it go, like to be like my youth is passing, my skin is wrinkling, and that is just what it is, and I can accept that because I can't control it, and you just can't. But now it's like, well, I kind of could. I could go to this, get this appointment, and like fill in here and fill in there, and because it's an option, there's the vulnerability of attaching and it's almost easier I think maybe per the closed and open loops thing that the brain is like well let's just do that and then that's done and that's easier than sitting with the options because do I don't I it's like a negotiation that always can keep going and never resolve itself. There's not a clear yes or no ever when there's an option. um so choice itself can be part of the vulnerability of attachment, which is weird.
Yeah.
But what about people who carry mental load because it's an identity or because it feels like a virtuous thing, like a way of showing that you care or that you're selfless, like to put down that mental load is a selfish act. And people who sort of might identify with having it.
Yeah, that involves a whole restructuring of your identity. If you're the person who, this is who I am, I'm the person who thinks of all these things, and I'm the
Yeah.
caretaker, and I'm the organizer, and I'm this and that. I guess how much of that is harming or causing a problem? Because unless somebody says, I really think this is a problem, kind of crack on if that's how you want to
Yeah.
be. I guess we're speaking to somebody who perhaps the downside, or the, shall we say, the cost is the overwhelm, the stress, potentially the anxiety. And
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
because your question was, what about these people? So yeah, what
What
about them?
about them?
What
Well, here's my
about them?
advice.
Hmm.
No, this is the case. This is the case for like so I have a friend right now who is going through a very difficult moment in her life. And she has a daughter. And she has been trying to navigate the stress and the overwhelm for herself, as well as trying to navigate it for her daughter and protect her daughter in certain ways. Um, and so another friend of ours said something to her like, you have to put your own oxygen mask on first so that you can help her.
Hmm.
And she said, no, I understand what you're saying, but I cannot do that. And I won't do that. And I thought about it like, I wonder if it's a different concept we're talking about there. I actually wasn't part. I was an observer in the conversation. But I agreed with the put on your oxygen mask first because I think sometimes that's viewed as save yourself and then save others. It's
Hmm.
instead it's save yourself so that you can save others, right? It's not a hierarchy. It's more like we're all going to go down if we don't do that. And I wonder if there's a nuance there of like, if I tend to myself or if I take care of myself, then that means I'm putting myself first and I'm putting someone else second instead of thinking, which by the way is fair, but like, can it also be I'm taking care of myself so that I can do the thing that I want to do, so that I can actually like show up for somebody else as well. If that is such an embedded part of our identity that feels like the only safe thing, that like it isn't a matter of selfishness even to put your own oxygen mask on.
No, and is it over tying with people pleasing? Is it a sense of I'm compelled to do this, otherwise I'm unlovable, people won't want me around. This is how I prove my worth. That is just, it's an added layer to the mental
Yeah.
load that you might be carrying as well. So it's probably which part of you is this coming from versus somebody who perhaps has ended up kind of culturally being conditioned into this role. There's a lot of talk, certainly on my algorithm, about like the mental load between heterosis relationships, between the
Oh.
genders and heterosis relationships, where the woman is often carrying the mental load
Yeah, yeah.
and holding on to everything. So that when it looks like what they're actually doing, the advice will be, well, delegate, get other people. But even being the delegator
Yeah.
is carrying the mental load. You've got to delegate. And sometimes just explaining how something needs to be done and ensuring that person understands it and then them coming back and forth. You think, well, in that time I could have just done it myself. That's
Yes.
often where someone ends up.
I don't know. Yes. And at the same time, I have a spouse who takes a good amount of doing, not the mental load. Like I have to articulate what to do, but he does a lot. And when he does it, it's kind of like you'd expect that to relieve my stress, right? You'd be like, oh, okay, thank you. That's all we want, right? Like is for our partner to support us. And then I find that when he does, I feel guilty that I'm not carrying the mental load. I actually feel like that is my job and that I should be doing that. Like what a good husband that he does
Yes,
it.
instead of just being a husband.
But I really mean it. Like I do feel somewhere inside of me, this isn't logical. It's just potentially culturally embedded and certainly in my family embedded. Like if I can't carry all the mental load, unfair as it may be, I'm not a good partner and I'm not a good wife and I'm not a good mother. And I haven't been able to let that go. I still let him do, like it's not like it gets in the way of the function. Like I don't actually take it all. I offload a lot, but I feel bad about it. And I feel less than about it. And I feel like the people, like the women who are complaining about, I shouldn't say complaining, the women who are citing, like, I do so much and my husband does nothing, which I have a lot of friends who will say that. I feel
Hmm.
really guilty. I feel really like my husband does a lot. And like, are you better than me? Because, like, because you do it.
Interesting. Isn't it annoying how that guilt can just get in the way of just being able to appreciate a good thing? Just
Yeah,
annoying.
I can do both. I think I do both, but I think there's something about the role or the virtue of taking it on. Um, I don't know, maybe that's something that shifts with culture.
Maybe, maybe.
Which brings us to the fourth question.
Oh, what stories do we tell ourselves about what will happen if we stop managing everything? That question. I feel like we touched on it a little bit because when I was talking about that time where I would say what was gone was the mental load, was the unnecessary thinking and planning and all of that. Because you know what I'm like with my empty time. I'm a meticulous planner with my weekends and that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing. And I was able to just have a weekend with nothing in it, just roll in
Oh,
and do what I felt like doing. That's
what
what I
was
mean.
it?
That's why I know it was real. That's why I know it wasn't in my head. That wasn't just
Wow.
imagined it. Yeah, this weekend I had nothing on and I didn't care. Like I said, I didn't mind. So there wasn't
Oh, I
that
didn't know it was so recent.
compulsive.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't recent. No, this was back when.
Oh, okay. I thought you said this
Yeah,
past
no,
weekend.
no, God, no, recently. No, that's what
Okay.
I mean. This is this was now 3 years ago.
Okay.
Actually, it would have been exactly this time
So
3 years.
interesting. So, okay, wait. So if do you have to be in that mindset for it to work? Let's say that you're like, okay, right, this weekend I'm going to roll into the weekend and let go of control. Would you experience it the same way? Just letting go of control. Can we actually even do that without, is it a choice you can
I
make?
can't, no, I can't make my
Yeah,
brain
it's
do
not a
that.
behavior.
No,
It's
no.
That's a good point. And that's something I like to talk about, like this idea of like just get rid of food rules, or like, it's like kind of like it's not just a behavior. It's in here. It has to happen in here first. And I don't think there's a one, two, three to that.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. And in fact, when this episode comes out, I will be back on the retreat that initially gave me that experience. And of course, there's a part of me that's hoping I'll come away with that again. But I have
Yeah.
done it before and not come away with, as
Oh,
you
you
well
have.
know.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've been on this retreat 3 times. The first time I went, I had this incredible experience of non-attachment, non-resistance that lasted about 2 months. And then I went back twice more, desperately trying to get that experience back.
Uh, is
So
that the rub?
yeah, but this time, because I have been twice and I know that it's not something I can, as soon as you turn it into something to attain,
Yeah. It's the
you lose
irony.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
It's like you have to just not want it, but still kind of tend it, but without wanting it.
Yeah. Good luck.
That's how you get there.
I think it's a personal, yeah, these are personal journeys. You can't, and I don't think anyone can't listen to podcasts about how to do that. I think it's
No.
something that we come to by, I don't know, it comes for me, it comes through the very depths of the strongest, most uncomfortable emotions. That's the only thing that's ever turned it for me. Is like meeting that despair,
Hmm.
has actually shifted something.
Something that really helps for me is just undistracted time. And I can't even tell you what I'm thinking about or necessarily doing, but I'm not mentally engaged in something. So I'm not listening to something, I'm not doing something. Um, I could be doing something like cooking or something that's a little bit more mindful, but I'm not trying to be mindful
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yes. 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 I know what you mean.
It's going for a walk without my headphones. It's spending a bit of time playing with the cats.
Yeah. It's like
It's
being.
just those, yes, exact. Thank you, exactly that.
Yeah.
Someone's been reading their Power of Now this year.
Not at all. Um, but that's I think the call to, in my experience lately, slow living. And I have this dream that I think I was really meant to be born in what I picture the 1800s with like the covered wagons, where you wake up with the sun and you harvest the field and you milk the cows and you sweat, and you're hot and
Mhm,
like, and then you go home and you have supper. It's supper, not dinner. You have supper and then you go to bed like with I think that's what I was meant to be. Like that's the era for me because it's
mhm,
slow and I think it's like you just have tasks that you have to do and there's not all this other like it's like just you have to just be. You have to just do. Like I think that's the most peaceful place. There's too much information now. There's too many things to think about and micromanage and control. Like I don't think it does me very well. So I'm hoping in my next life I go back to the covered wagons.
yes. We may end up back there with the way the world's
I
going.
know. I'm
There'll be like a
excited.
back. AI will have taken over everything and we'll
Yeah,
just.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah, okay.
anyway,
Anyway, good chat.
good chat.
I need the
Um,
toilet as well. I can see you
totally.
bouncing. I'm not normally
That's
this
where my
desperate,
mental
but I
load
need
is
to
right
go.
now. Just like I
Yeah,
gotta,
okay.
gotta, gotta pee. Okay.
Okay.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye bye.